We on? You guys, I'm here with the venerable Susie Hart again. Look at this woman. You have met Susie. She's been on the channel a few times. She's my fiance. And boy, there's some news. She is carrying our baby we're due in January. That's not what this video is about.
Yep.
But I just wanted to let you know what she's up against. So our concept for today was we wanted to go record some rural photography. So Susie and I, we're both going out with two of my cameras. She has the R7 and I've got the Canon R5 Mark II. And so she's got a 50 1.8 on, I've got the 85 1.8. We're gonna have very similar compositional opportunities, and we're both gonna be shooting the cameras in fully automatic. I'll be driving, Susie's gonna be telling us where to stop, and as you may or may not be able to see, I am also carrying a GoPro, so all the footage from here on out probably be coming from the GoPro. So point of view photography with a friend, see how Canons are doing in 2020. Fun with a fiance. To see how Canon cameras are doing in fully automatic in 2025. So let's go. We did not make it far on our sunset journey before this scene caught Susie's attention of the sort of the color of the sunset shining through the water mist coming off of this irrigator. She thought that was super cool, and in fact it was super cool, and this was my first composition of the day. We both kind of shot this scene together. So this was my first shot, and it's actually my first time ever using the R5 Mark II in the fully intelligent automatic mode, and was not crazy with the way the camera was metering this scene. This is underexposed for my purposes, sort of to have the landscape in silhouette to preserve some amount of highlight detail in the sky. So this was my first difficulty with the intelligent automatic mode, is that you not only can you not do any exposure compensation, but I also was not able to change the metering mode at all. So where I might have thought that, okay, the camera's metering the scene, but I can sort of tell it how I want to prioritize the metering. There's no control over that whatsoever. In fact, the only control that I could find was the ability to change the focus point, but not the focus mode, only the focus point. The ability to crop or change the cropping or aspect ratio, and the ability to select what type of JPEG, so like large, medium, etc. Right, so I bring all this up so to clarify that this is not an assessment of the way that the camera makes JPEGs, because I love the JPEGs from the R5 Mark II. It's great at that. And in fact, when I brought the raw file into the in-camera JPEG processor and just brightened it up a stop and re-exported it as a new JPEG, I got this as the result. And this is not only useful to me, I think this is an incredible out-of-camera JPEG, so great here. But rolling back onto the original, right, this is just underexposed. So the difficulty that I have with this photo and the assessment that I'm trying to make in this video overall relates to how intelligent the camera is at making its camera settings to deliver a result. And I know that the camera makes great JPEGs because I also tried to run the raw file through Lightroom and I got this result. And this has been a consistent struggle with this camera for me, is getting Lightroom to deliver as good of a result as the in-camera processing. So once again, maybe paying attention to the area around the sun. I'll roll the camera file on so you can see sort of how the camera in-camera raw processing handles the highlight roll off. 3, 2, 1, go. And then maybe I'll attract your attention to the shadow detail at the bottom, rolling back onto Adobe processing in 3, 2, 1. And back to the Canon camera processing in 3, 2, 1. Right, so I know the camera can make great JPEGs. I just wish, and I will fade this on, I wish the camera had made the decision to expose the photo more like this, because this is my favorite out of the whole bunch. And the other dispute that I'm not trying to resolve in this video is whether the Canon develops RAW files better, or whether it does its automatic mode better than any other camera system, although I think that would be an interesting comparison to try to draw a conclusion from in the future. In this video, I'm just trying to demonstrate the intelligence of the Canon Intelligent Scene Automatic mode. So let's catch up with Susie and see how she's doing with the R7. You got an auto?
Yeah.
Can I see it?
Yeah, you scared me.
Okay. All right. Confirmed automatic. So this is how Susie captured the scene. I love that she sort of foregrounded that stuff in the foreground, sort of out of focus. We'll roll back onto the R5 Mark II. So you can compare our compositions, but you can see the cameras made very similar creative decisions for how to take the photos. Now, another thing that I might quibble with, and I'll put the camera settings on the screen here, but I think the R5 Mark II at least shot this scene at f5 for something like 2/100ths of a second. So I'm not sure why the camera didn't recognize that it could have advantaged itself by stopping down and getting more depth of field. But anyway, that's what the camera did.
Whoa. That is amazing. That's also amazing.
So Susie and I got back on the road. We were having a great drive, but unfortunately or fortunately, I looked out the window and realized that the moon was rising, a full moon, and we hadn't really accounted for that at all. We didn't even know that it was a full moon night, and it was fantastic, but it also became a huge distraction. We probably spent the rest of the night just chasing the moon around and finding things to foreground in front of the moon. So I'll start with Susie's shot here. This was the first composition we pulled over to get with the moon. This is how she composed it with the R7's creative camera settings. And then we'll switch over to the R5 Mark II, where you can see that once again, the metering system really let me down here, this time not being too dark, but too bright. So I'm rolling on the Lightroom adjustments for my preferred exposure, and then rolling that back off so you can see the difference. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to do this for every photo. At the end of the video, I will make a reel of all of my preferred camera settings, bringing the photos through Lightroom. However, I will put the Susie's photo back on again so you can compare the creative decisions made between the R5 Mark II and the R7. Next, we came to a scene, and we were both very excited about this, a more intimate and up-close rural scene. And so I decided to shoot this vertical. You're seeing my shot here. This is, again, how the R7 decided to meter, white balance, etc. the scene. I did shoot a horizontal too. You saw me flash that frame there. We'll come back to that. But Susie shot hers in horizontal, and this is what the R7 did. Now, the issue with this scene is, if you will notice, and it was probably would have been very difficult for her to see this on her screen, is that the foreground is in focus, the very close foreground, while the middle ground, containing what I would consider to be the subject matter of the photo, and especially the moon in the background, are all deeply out of focus. So you'll recall that I also shot a horizontal of this scene, and I'll put that on now because the R5 Mark II, in fact, had the exact same problem. For whatever reason, prioritizing focusing on this stuff in this ditch, as opposed to what is, in my opinion, the clear subject matter of the photograph that is right in the middle of the frame. So not sure why both of these cameras struggled to make what is, in my opinion, again, a very basic decision. But this is the result we got from the cameras, and I will roll the creative edits on after the video. I love this shot because we didn't even have to get out of the car for it. I'm doing a series on roads, and so I especially wanted to capture this photo. Again, just the camera's decision, and this is how Susie shot it. So once again, I saw it vertical, she saw it horizontal. I would say the R5 Mark II and the R7, just like the last scene, made similar creative decisions for the photo. And this shot, we just could not resist. I actually passed this and came back to it. We have so many cool Americana elements. This old building, there's a pallet out front. The security light is on, and look at this old Pepsi machine. It's fantastic. So much character here. The gravel parking lot in the front, the texture of the sky, the lighting. I loved it. The only thing I don't like here is the way that the R5 Mark II decided to make this photograph. So this is like nothing like how I visualized. It's exposed so bright you can't even see the security light is on. So I will show you the difference, yes, both in the way that Susie composed this photo, but also in the way that the R7 handled it. So I love the decision that it made, both to shoot the scene darker and with a warmer white balance. I prefer the result tremendously over this, which again is the result from the R5 Mark II. Here's another instance of the camera just really struggling to figure out what the priority is for what I'm trying to shoot in this scene. And At this point, I will roll on my edit for this, right? My preference for what the camera had done, and I will continue to roll through my edits and give you my conclusions here as it's getting dark and we're bringing the car and this discussion back home. So there were a couple of inspirations for this idea and maybe a couple of curiosities that I wanted to resolve. First is, Susie is not a technical photographer, even though you can see, right, I've been doing this for years and years, professionally, decades in fact. And in many instances, I prefer Susie's compositions to my compositions, and I think she's just got a better creative eye. And so I think one of my curiosities was for a photographer like that, who's just got maybe a good eye, but doesn't have the time or whatever to learn all the ins and outs of working a camera. Is this intelligent automatic mode a technological advancement that can fast track an artist like that to creating imagery with a camera without having to learn all of the technicalities? And the second curiosity relates to this wave of cameras that are coming out, wave of point and shoot and vintage and everyday carry cameras that are coming out that are marketed and, in my opinion, intended to be used so that you sort of just use the JPEG out of the camera. And so I was curious how, because Canon isn't really advertising a camera like that. I was curious, how do Canon's conventional cameras perform in that kind of a use case? Right, can my professional Canon camera also kind of be like a fun camera? And so in both of those regards, I was both impressed and disappointed with the camera. So I think that a photographer buying these cameras and hoping that it will allow them to create a technical hurdle will probably be disappointed, maybe frequently, by the result that the camera delivers, because, in my opinion, the cameras repeatedly made poor decisions with regards to exposure, depth of field, color, and any number of things. So maybe that's good news that at least for these cameras, I'm not out of business as a photographer. However, I was impressed by the quality of the JPEGs out of the cameras, and that's also important for me because it's reassuring to know that if I've learned how to use the camera and I'm comfortable changing the settings, and I don't mind to sort of change the settings from photo to photo to match some creative idea, then I know that I can get a good JPEG out of the camera. And there are many times that is equally important, to have the confidence that the end of my day is just going to be sharing the photos and not having to drag them into a photo editor on my computer and process the raw files manually. So that, in that regard, it was a thumbs up. And in all regards, I had a great evening with Susie. I know she did too, and we appreciate you guys watching and the ability to share both our experience with you, our inspiration, and hopefully some useful information on the automatic features of these cameras. So thanks for tuning in, and until I see you next time, you guys keep an eye out and a foot forward, and thanks for watching. Bye.